Cool. Best year ever, cowboy closes. We'll go more into cowboy closes at the end, but for now, like I said, I just want to go through how to have your best year ever. It will incorporate goal setting and a few other things. So these are the goals that I set in 2021. Not that deep, not that crazy, not going to change the world. But for me, making stuff real is writing it down, whether it's on a whiteboard, whether it's on a piece of paper, whether it's on your phone. Personally, I like the whiteboard and phone method because pieces of paper, they get lost easily. Whereas on your phone, everyone's got probably a fairly large note section. So just having it in there and really like having it down can be helpful. For me, I never really took these too seriously. I just wrote the things that I wanted in for my next chapter, and this was in 2021. Wanted to have a motocross bike to zip around on. Want to be able to work almost anywhere, have some work-life balance, somewhere sunny and by the sea, doing sports like diving, wakeboarding, spearfishing, surfing, fun times and tattoos, sales, model, barber, fashion. Like these were the things that I was interested in at the time. Video and edit everything, YouTube and Instagram, go to model castings, run, eat, gym, good combo, walk after dinner, sea bass, ceviche, and write a book. Some of this makes no sense, and I understand that. Sea bass, ceviche, I think the rationale behind that was I wanted to go spearfishing, catch a sea bass, make it into ceviche. Writing a book, does what it says on the tin, and the rest of it is kind of like little lifestyle-based things that I wanted to do and I wanted to achieve. So for me, when I look at this, I've done one, I've done two, I've done close. I'm getting closer to three, but I don't know if that's ever really possible. I live somewhere sunny and by the sea. I do all of these sports. I'm actually on a diving and spearfishing trip this week in Ahmed, which is on the east coast of Bali. I tick those off. Modeling, I'm not so into it anymore, but I do video and edit everything on YouTube and Instagram. I don't go to model castings, but I did put myself forward for a movie the other day, so I guess there's some similarities there. But my point really is just like having them written down, they're kind of then in your subconscious and they're in your phone, and whether you go back to them or not, like you wanted it at one point, so it doesn't hurt to then go back, whether it's 3 years later, 1 year later, 4 years later. Like for me, and I look back at it and I'm like, I was the architect of my life. I manifested this. Whether or not I was actively hunting it, I still knew what the overarching outcome I wanted to achieve was, which is basically being able to do what I want and live where I want. But the main thing really is like having it written down, making it real is the first step. As well as that, I had a friend of mine, and he's a successful business owner, and he was like, get a vision board. He was like, just have the material things that you want, and then it will just help you along your way. To be honest, more so now, I still preach the vision board, but I feel like it should be more, maybe less motivated by material, because like I don't want a 30 grand Rolex. Like it's not really what I care about. Don't need a Husqvarna motocross bike. I don't need fucking off-white trainers. I don't need loads of rings. And you can see how I've changed as a person over the last few years. Whereas this is a lot more what I want. I want to be diving. Like for example, I'm going to go dive a shipwreck tomorrow. I want to be traveling fucking business class. I want to be staying by the beach. I want to surf more. I want to ski more. I want to gym. I want to wakeboard. So it's kind of been funny that when I look at it, it's split into experience and material. And as I've matured and got older, I've definitely invested more, especially recently, into the experience side of things, because I had a look at myself and I thought, all I do is work. I don't even really care about material at the moment. I just want experiences, because when I look at my life, I'm like, someone asked me the other day, what's the happiest memory of your life so far? And I fucking struggled to answer it. And I was like, that won't be when I go buy a fucking Rolex. I can guarantee you that now. It will be when I go do a nitrox dive on a huge wreck in the ocean, or when I go and, do my first double backflip wakeboarding, something along those lines. I know that I'll get a lot more enjoyment. I'll get a lot more dopamine, and that will then be, I guess, me ticking off these parts of my vision board. But yeah, good to have it, and it doesn't hurt to sort of know where you want to go. If you don't have goals, whether they're material or experience based, or even just like not it down, then how do you know where you want to go if you've got nowhere to really like look for? This is something that I do with a lot of the community with Cowboy Closers. Is I like to make resources. So this is just one. It's about the goals. For me, I have a lot of different types of goals. So creative, sales, skill development, content, lifestyle, miscellaneous, business, revenue, travel, and then habits. You don't have to do all of these because you don't want to get too ingrained in what's going on, and you don't want to get too in the weeds of it. But for me, because I've got my brain is always going in different directions, I have a lot of things that I want to achieve. So write and direct a screenplay / short film. The green are the most important ones that I've put. Yellow is the secondary, and then red is like the tertiary kind of. They'd be nice if I did them, but they're not like what I really want to do. The sales targets, 100K in sales every month. Content creation and editing is the skill development. Outsourcing, coaching, SOPs, docs, resources, sports. Lifestyle and fitness, stay jacked, get a barrel, and just do loads of more extreme sports. Meditation. They're my primary levers that I want to be pulling. At the moment, like literally all of those I'm hitting right now. And when it says 100K sales doesn't mean 100K take home, 100K in sales for the business. So in terms of when you look at it, it's like I did this a couple of months ago, and I'm ticking this, I'm ticking this, I'm ticking this. I haven't got a barrel yet, but I'm also ticking this. This has been one of the biggest needle movers for me personally. And I've known that I've needed to do it more, and I've started to take it more seriously, which is then going to help me with everything else, I believe. What I like to do is make things very simple. So color coding stuff I find is a great way to do it. And then just having the goal, putting it as the why, doesn't need to be deep, how I'm going to do it, when I'd like to do it by, maybe a milestone along the way that lets me know that I'm getting there, and then the target date. Again, I don't like to fluff stuff up. This is why I don't like SMART goals, because it's like I don't even know what the SMART acronym is. So if I can't even remember what the SMART acronym is, how am I meant to remember like really anything else about it? So for me, I just keep it simple. Honestly, if I had to look at any of this, I would only look at the goal. That would be my primary, because then I know it's lodged in my head. This is what I want. I'll get there in this period of time, and it's just about when I get there, because I know it's going to come. So this is something that I'm very big on. It's just setting clear, basic goals that aren't over-engineered. This is the next thing, and unfortunately it's quite small, so I apologize about that. But it's something, again, that I'm big on, is another resource, is becoming an architect of your life. So if you're in the early stages of like wanting to have your best year ever, or wanting to change your life, or wanting to do different shit, then my recommendation would be to fill out this doc. There's different sections. So at the moment, there's 7 different sections, and they encompass lifestyle, environment, career and work, fun and creativity, energy and well-being, relationships and social life, mindset and personal growth, purpose and legacy. And these are just very straight to the point questions. Where do I want to live? What kind of home do I want to live in? Who do I surround myself with daily? How do I make money? What skills do I need to level up? You know, like these are questions that in my mind, if you don't ask yourself, you'll never know the answer to. And if you don't know the answer to, then you'll never reach them. So having a clear guideline and a map of this is what I want my lifestyle to look like. This is what I want my sort of creative output to be. This is how I, recoup energy. This is how I want to spend my time. This is the sort of relationships that I want. And you don't have to say that these are going to be, set in stone or gospel, like shit changes. Everyone changes, people change, environments change, but having them down on paper, at least then gives you the resource to go back to it and have a look to say, that worked well for me. That didn't work well for me. I really enjoyed that. And for me, I just know that this exercise is, for a lot of people, quite tricky to actually do. And I think that's the main point of it, is like, if it's hard to do and you have to think about it, then it's worthwhile doing. Because if you don't do it, then you just end in this endless circle. And realistically, endless circles lead to the same place you're at now. So we'll be having the same sort of conversation in the next year. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So for me, putting in the work, planning what you want to do, and giving yourself just a brief guideline, a brief map, is always super helpful. This year, I wrote these, I don't know, at the start of the year, and they've probably changed now, And again, I'm not like living by the sword and dying by the sword on them. I don't actually care too much if they happen or not. I just, like, what I care about is making steps towards them. So like, let's just go for the 2025, like living in Bali stress-free. So I've done some videos on it. I've been like heavily burnt out for the past year and a half. And like, to this day, I actually invested in myself into a coach to help with the burnout and the recovery. I am now 10 days without like burnout, quote unquote. And the milestone for that for me is like, I would spend 1 to 2, maybe sometimes 3 days in bed per week with burnout. And it's been 10 days since I've done it. So for me, that's an achievement. So I'm definitely on my way. I haven't like kicked it off. I'm not going to say that I've completed it, but I'm getting better at it. Same with meditation. The trips are coming. Take some time off, build YouTube to 10K subs, weekly sports content. Definitely doing that more, invest in my health, buy a drone, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to just talk through all of my goals for you, right? Because that will just get boring and you'll be like, fuck this guy. But really, what I want to do is just have these down. I remember I did the Instagram one to 25K followers. I've actually tripled that already. I set this at the start of the year. So for me, just having these in paper and being able to like express yourself in that sort of respect just seems to make sense for me, anyways. A big thing with goals is the belief that you have in yourself. And I'm not the expert on belief systems or psychology or any of these things, but I do know that there's one thing I will fucking always do is back myself. So just the example here is you'll see in a moment, but if you can see that 207 weeks ago, but it was like 4 years ago or something, 17th of January 2021. So that is, yeah, 4 years ago in a couple of months, I started hashtagging my own name. Ironically, I'm actually in the same place where this photo was taken. I was in Ahmed and I was doing a free diving course, did my motion ops level 1. And I saw a guy hashtag his own name and I didn't really know the benefit of it. But when I read it and I saw it, I was like, that guy fucking believes in himself because he's going to hashtag his own name. You can see it as arrogant. You can see it as fucking, egotistical, whatever you want to do, a bit narcissistic perhaps. But in my mind, I was like, if that guy believes in himself that much, he's going to hashtag his own name, then that guy's worth fucking watching out for. And for me, I just followed the same principle. Turned out it was a bit of an SEO hook as well, which maybe we'll get onto later. But just as a whole, I was very much like under the impression that if I don't believe in myself and I don't back myself and I don't think my name is going to become anything, then no one else is going to fucking do it for me. So for me, that was like a big step in like confirming my own belief in who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be, and where I was going to go. Starts with the belief. The same with other businesses that I've had. So before, I'm a big fan of like home screens being like what you want and what you want to achieve. So mine changes every so often. I got a new one at the moment that I'll probably change, but maybe I go a bit too far in terms of belief. I go all out. So Western Boulevard was the clothing brand that I started a few years ago, and I would like to relaunch it again at some point because I love merchandise, I love fashion, I love creative like clothing and designs, and I got it tattooed on my knuckles. For me, again, I'm not saying that you need to go get tattooed to show your commitment to something, but for me, it was just an easy way to commit to something that I was really passionate about, and by getting it actually tattooed on me, by having it as my phone background, and by having that belief. I say it to a lot of people, like whether it's in sales, whether it's in life, it's better to go over the top with something than never go for it at all. Like I'd rather you have to pull back a little bit, whether you go too strong, you go too far. Way easier to dial that back than to try and get to someone to do something initially. So for me, it's very similar with the belief, like getting the tats, both for Western Boulevard and both for Coco Social, which was a business I had a few years ago, which was basically a social media based content business. It was working well in the UK. When I came to Bali, it's a different story for a different day. But long story short, is you have to have like a different visa to work in Bali with all these brands, and loads of people are doing it. So I sacked it off. But I still have the tats. I still live by it. They're all going to be always going to be there, and I always remember them because they basically got me to where I am now. But the moral of the story is have some fucking belief for once. Believe in yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. You're going to be fighting a lot of criticism, a lot of bullshit, a lot of exterior, negativity most of the time. I'm not going to say for everyone, but like that's just you have to walk, and that's the cost of admission in my mind. And then it goes into the brand belief. August 23rd, 2023, I had 8,000 followers. By 3rd of January this year, I had even less. If you go on the metric of losing, 1,000 followers, really the data supports that I'm not going to get anywhere. But for me, I just didn't fucking care. I was like, I don't give a shit what the numbers are, how it's going. All I know is that I just need to post more, I need to believe in myself, and I need to be fairly consistent. If you look at it now, we've just hit 75K followers. And for me, it's not the biggest number in the world, but as a whole, I'm getting some proof of concept of what I believed in originally. And I don't know, I'm not going to say I'm fucking talked about, but I know there'll be some people somewhere that thought, good for him. At least he fucking committed to it. At least he fucking put the time in. At least he didn't give up. Because I think that's the biggest thing that I see with people, whether it's their goals, their life, their belief, what they actually want to do is they just give up too early. Quitters never win. That's the moral of that story. And for myself, I know that along the way, there were certain things that I did that definitely helped me get there, and trying different things, posting different content. I invested 2.5 grand in a personal branding course. 1st of December, like more or less a month later, everything blows up. But that was because I had the belief and I made the commitment and I gave it to the universe for one. I was going to make this shit happen and I was going to make it work. So again, the whole thing is belief. It's mindset, belief, and basically taking, doing, being the person you want to be before you even get there. And then we hop onto phone screens. Again, something that everyone looks at maybe 20, 30, 40 times a day is your phone. Everyone's fucking on their phone, whether it's their watch, their phone, their laptop. So what you consume, you become. And if you're constantly looking at garbage, you're looking at bullshit, you listen to let's say the news, for example, isn't my favorite thing to listen to because it's a lot of it is spreading negativity. There's obviously some aspects that might be helpful, but for me, it's just not. So I don't consume that sort of content. So when I was building Coco Social, I have that as my background because I know that's my mission. When I'm building West Boulevard, I have that as my background because I know that's my. When I have shit going on in my life, I have little like let's say affirmations or little words to live by. Keep it light was something that I always live by, and I have been doing more so recently because I stopped. And it's like if I overthink something or I have a bit of a fucking weird few days and I'm just like in my head, I just say to myself, keep it light. And I keep on saying it until the devil in my head just gets compressed and is then sort of removed from my life. Compromise less is always a big one because I feel like if you compromise on stuff a lot of the time, then you never really get what you want. And if you want certain things, you have to make sacrifices. Find the buyer, build, be a bulldog, solve problems, health as well, sober dance, feel a strong, Espanol, stock conversation, meditation, and joy. I'm not going to say that all of these are going to really help you if you just have them on your phone screen. But you got to believe it. You got to have things that you actually believe in and little quotes that you like. And then finally, this is what I had before I blew up online a bit more, was the sum of the work that you put in. The more content you create, the more people know about you. The more they know, the more they love. And these are like the little alter egos that I have: the Rad El Capitan, the Wolf of Southeast Asia. And for me, this was a big one because the more content you create, the more people know about you. I don't mind having my life online. I don't have to share everything, but it is essentially a highlight reel. And nowadays, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I know that if there's 75,000 people following me, and I do approximately just over 20 million views per month at the moment. Since we started this year, I've probably got now 120 to 150 million views. A lot of people will know me. So I get a lot of not acknowledgement, but like I'm putting myself in a great position to get more things, to have more fun, to get more doors unlocked into different rooms, to have different opportunities and whatnot. And that's what I would like. I would like to scale that. I'd like to go there. And that only came from me having the belief of myself and putting it into paper and having it on my phone screen. So whatever you want, whatever you're working towards, your goals are, what you maybe even don't want, have it there so you can actively work towards it on a daily basis. If you count the amount of times you actually open your phone or look at your phone screen every day, you'd be surprised how much of a difference it makes when you actually fucking change it to something that's going to inspire you. I could probably be painted with the brush of taking it too far. I basically tattooed my name a lot of places. When I say compromise less earlier, this in Greek means compromise less. So I have it written down on my phone. I have it tattooed on my body. My last name is Western, so I have Western tattooed. Barat means west in Indonesia, so I get Western tattooed. I have a compass that only points west. Like I'm just giving myself all of these visual cues all the time. And I feel like, again, what you consume, I'm looking at myself, I'm looking at my phone screen, I'm looking at everything that I'm doing. And again, you can read into it and say that it's fucking super egotistical or narcissistic. But at the end of the day, it's like, I need to do these things to get what I want. And I'm only sharing this with you because it's worked for me so far. And, I believe that these sorts of things will help you get there. This down here means no in Greek. And when I stopped drinking and started prioritizing myself and my life, I had to say no to a lot of shit. No to parties, no to social events, no to weddings, no to all this stuff. Because I knew if I went, I'd end up boozing and I'd end up in the square one. I'd just end up in this cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. So for me, having that there was just a helpful reminder. And then finally, I like quotes. I like words. I feel like maybe I could consider myself a bit of a wordsmith. So I like having quotes on my leg because it just reminds me of things that I need, that I want, that I shouldn't do. So I'm just going to rattle through them quickly. But like, The top one is better to die on your feet than live a lifetime on your knees. Next is you can't sit at my table if all you're going to bring is your appetite. Next is, sorry, I can't actually remember all of these verbatim, but the next one is you don't make sacrifices for what you want will be the sacrifice. And then the last one is it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. And I feel like a lot of them I live and breathe at the moment. And I know that especially the last one will become more impactful and more relevant as I get bigger and bigger and bigger and the brand continues to grow. Because like what happens when you get a big brand or you do well and more people start to know you, then you maybe get a bit too self-obsessed and you feel like you are really important when really the main premise is like just important to be nice. I'd rather live on that than nice to be important. Anyway, for me, I have set my goals just to a standard where I couldn't easily attain them. I went through a few periods of setting goals, achieving them, and it was usually based around alcohol and finances. I noticed a pattern. I believe his life is a series of patterns that you should identify and follow or not follow, depending on the pattern and how it takes you and the outcome that you get. But for me, I just wanted to make a commitment to myself because I'd say I'm going to save 10 grand, so I'm going to stop drinking. 2 months later, I've saved it, and then I go back to the party scene. I was like, did it again, say 15 grand in a few months, go back to the party scene. So in my mind, I made this correlation between not drinking and then financial success. So I was like, how about I just set the bar higher? So all I did is say that £1 million in revenue in a year for a business or 1 million followers online, and then I'll drink again. So now I have the ultimate, in my mind, commitment to not drink until I reach these goals. And when I get there, will I drink? Will I not? I don't know. I'm not really focused on that. I'm focused on the day to day. But what I did do to make it real is put this bottle of whiskey that I was gifted and a box of cigars in my parents' loft in the UK. So I'm making it real. I'm making it count. You know, I put it on social media. I've got it in this presentation here. Like a lot of people who know me know that that's my thing. And it's kind of become, you know, not only a benefit in terms of business, in terms of relationships, but I feel like by not drinking and committing to something for longer than 6 months, you know, I'm 2 years, 4 months sober so far. Like I'm just committing to myself and actually proving to myself that when I commit to these challenges, when I commit to these things, good things happen. And I'm not going to lie that like the whole 2 years and 4 months, basically the best part has been the last 4 months. So it just goes to show that you're going to go through a slog of time that isn't maybe what you want, that isn't perfect, that isn't ideal. But like if you don't give up, like I said, don't quit and you'll always win. And that kind of like concludes the best year ever section. I don't want to drag too much on about it because I feel like a lot of it comes down to just making very simple lists, making very simple sort of goals, and then putting the fucking work in. A lot of people will say that, you know, I think it's a Chris Williamson quote, but like the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're not doing. And I know that a lot of people here, some of you guys are already in cowboy clothes, so forgive me for this. But for me, the biggest change was getting into sales. I've been in sales for a long time. You know, a lot of those sales roles were great. They paid me well, but a lot of times we're assigned to an office or assigned to a location. So when I got into remote sales for other businesses, and whether it's business to business or business to consumer, that's kind of when I got the first etch of freedom, which was what I really wanted. So if you remember back to my 2021 goals, it would say being able to work anywhere in the world. You know, I chose to come back to Bali, and that's when remote sales really took off for me because it just made sense. It gave me all the freedom I needed. I could be the architect of my day. I could choose when I had calls. I could choose the calendar that I was in. And that really started to give me the edge of where I could build my brand more. And for me, I don't know, some of you guys maybe have just seen me online, but for myself, I've been in sales. I started in timeshare sales when I was 22, 23 in Mexico. And then from there, I've done digital marketing sales, software sales, door-to-door sales. I've done a little bit of everything. Now I've moved into remote sales. Most recently, had multiple businesses. And for me, my background is actually in coaching and tuition. Some of you guys here would have met me when I was a bit of a young fucking nuisance, but I started out as a sailing coach and a windsurfing instructor and a wakeboarding instructor and a paddy dive master, and all of these things are like tuition based and coaching. So this is why I've moved more into teaching people how to sell and to help them get roles, because that's exactly what Cowboy Closers does. And for me, one of the greatest things is just being able to take people, whether you've got experience, whether you don't, giving you the basically mindset shift, giving you the tools, giving you the skills, giving you the accountability, giving you the community, and then giving you the understanding of what makes a good salesperson. What's the difference between your traditional salesperson and sort of the new age consultative salesperson, and then really just giving people the end result, which is getting a role. Because for me, what I want people to be doing is earning a minimum of £5,000 per month remotely from anywhere in the world. For most people, that's like double their monthly income. Most people are probably on around 2-3K a month working in an office. And if you can double that, a lot of people think you need 15, 20, 100K a month, but really you don't. If you want to look after yourself, have fun, live somewhere well, unless you're in the UK, Dubai, the States, you can more or less live most other places in the world very comfortably on that money. So what I want to do is teach psychology, teach you about different scripts. What we did most recently was very much about the discovery process, so asking good questions, becoming like the solution, becoming the therapist. You don't even have to sell anyone. If you ask good questions, you get good answers. Making people think is where you really get to the position where you can close them. They hop on your service, and then the next thing you know, you're closing high ticket deals without any corporate bullshit, without any, location ties, without anything that you don't want. And then you can start living the life that you actually want, the life that you plan through the architecture of your life sheet, hopefully. For me, I just want to make it abundantly clear that there's a few things that I see in the community. And one of the things is, can I get a role? So here's just a few screenshots of the roles that we've got. I get a lot of inbound interest because of my social media. And that's one of the benefits of building it, is that people come to me now to help them find closers. Closers are, there's more roles in the world than there are good closers. And if you're a business owner, if you're a founder or a sales manager, the biggest bottleneck is going to be hiring, especially with the line hire slow, fire fast. People don't want to take people on necessarily too early, because unless they're very good at their job. That's why sales is such a great role to be in, because usually you're commission only, or if you're not, you've got a little basic in commission, you're a hired gun. You'll go into a business, sell their fucking product, and go about your day. So for me, there's a few ways you can actually get a role with Cowboy Closers. I live under the line of give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or teach a man a fish, basically live for a lifetime. So the first one is I'm going to show you every way that I know and have done by getting roles, whether it's LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, Sync, Google. They're the more traditional routes, which I definitely recommend you do. The next ones are through my personal network. So like I said, I got a lot of inbound interest from Instagram. So that's one way that I can help. I just post these roles in there. This guy's looking for this. It's this time zone. This is the commission. Bom, 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 bom. That's the next one. The third way is I work with a recruitment partner. And what they do is they get paid to place people. So they're always looking for good closers, because they have a lot of clients that need closers. So currently we have 2 or 3 people who are in the process with a few of those roles. And for us, that's a win-win, because we have pretty much a guaranteed placement rate. So if you're in, you do the work, you make sure you do all the coursework, you come to the calls, you do the homework, you actually put in the fucking effort, and you upskill yourself, we'll get you a role. If it ever comes to the point where you've done all of that and you don't get a role, I'll fucking personally go and get you one. And then there's a few little successes from the community. Jack, Freddie, Ayana, Jim, Reese, Jake. There's some more that I could post. A few other people having more interviews. And for me, this is one of the biggest things, just to see people actually get what they want. And I know we just had a call earlier, it was like 5 or 6 of us on it. And it's nice just to build a community. Like for me, one of the biggest things is, are you surrounding yourself with people that are doing what you want to be doing? If the answer is no, then the quickest way to do it is to get into a community of people, or a circle of people that are doing it. Because if you don't do that, then if you're hanging around fucking Bill and Bob that are still on the tools, or working the 9 to 5 that aren't really loving life, you become a product of that. You get a C player and you put it with 5 A players, and the C player is very quickly going to become a B. You put an A player with 5 C players, the A is very quickly going to be dropping down. So surround yourself with the people that you want to be around, that are doing the things you want to do. And I guarantee over time, over experience, over work ethic, you'll get where you want to be. Cool. That's basically it. A little bit more about how Cowboy Closes. I'll send you the doc so you've got more information in. At the moment, onboarding call. There's 2 group coaching sessions per week. the full 360 sales course. So there's appointment setting, there's closing, there's how to get roles, there's mindset, there's fucking everything in there. And if there's anything you think that I'm missing, feel free, because I'm big on constructive criticism, and I'll just fucking bolster this stuff out to make sure it's bulletproof. We've got 6 more spaces available at the moment. I'm going to add the community doc in so you can have a little look, and the Stripe link as well, so you can actually have a fucking proper understanding and a proper look. But if you're not ready to have your best year ever, if you don't want to take the plunge, then I'm sure I'll see you in a year's time when you come to the realization that if you put in the time now, put in the effort, made the investment into yourself, then you'll be in a much happier place. And just so you guys know, this might be a bit of an overshare, but people always think, and the way I like to live is, I would never ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do. So since December, I've spent 6K British on personal development and self-development. So in my mind, if you're not willing to even invest $100, $120 into your own development, then really you're never going to get what you want. Because if you can't even invest a few pints in the weekend into your future, into your purpose, then I don't know where you're going to end up. You might get that by potluck, but a lot of the times you got to pay to play, and that's just the way it goes for a lot of people. But that's pretty much it from Cowboy Closers. I hope you have the best year ever. We're going to do another one in the next couple of months, so it'll be Q3. Be good to see a few returning faces that maybe you've done the architect of your life doc, maybe you've done the, a bit more goal setting, you've done your vision board, and then from there, honestly, it would just be nice to see fucking people smashing it.